Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Today I want to invite you to explore several intriguing fan theories about Hagrid, one of the simplest yet most mysterious characters in the Harry Potter series. He is big, kind, loved by everyone, and seemingly nothing could cast doubt on his loyalty. But as often happens in the world of Harry Potter, even the simplest things can hide many secrets. So let's take a look at some of these theories. Number 1, Voldemort was afraid of Hagrid. We all know that Hagrid was expelled from Hogwarts for allegedly releasing a monster on wizards, but what if this story hides much more? One theory suggests that Voldemort, still Tom Riddle at the time, feared Hagrid because he was a half-giant and had unimaginable magical potential if properly trained. Voldemort might have seen Hagrid as a threat and decided to eliminate him by framing him for such a terrible crime. It's quite possible that by doing so he removed a future competitor. Number 2, Hagrid's wand wasn't broken. As we know, after his expulsion, Hagrid was left without a proper wand, and his own was broken. However, one fan theory claims that Hagrid's wand was actually repaired, and the theory suggests that Dumbledore, very fond of Hagrid, may have secretly fixed the wand and hidden it inside an umbrella so that Hagrid could use magic when necessary without drawing attention. Number 3, Hagrid was the same age as Harry. It's hard not to notice that despite his size and stature, Hagrid has a childlike innocence and simplicity, which sometimes misleads people. However, one theory suggests that giants, including Hagrid, take much longer to fully mature. This could mean that mentally he was on the same level as Harry, Ron, and Hermione, which explains his behavior and naivety despite his physical age. Number 4, Hagrid was a Death Eater. There is a theory that Hagrid was originally on Voldemort's side. In The Philosopher's Stone, Hagrid uses magic to harm Dudley and also demonstrates excellent magical skills, such as when he ferried the boat across the rough sea. This gives reason to believe that Hagrid might have been initially on the dark Lord's side, manipulating events and providing Harry with information that unintentionally led to Voldemort. Number 5, the door to Fluffy's room was weakly protected on purpose. Everyone remembers the moment from The Philosopher's Stone when Harry and his friends easily snuck into the room with Fluffy. This opened the way to the stone, but the protection was so simple that even novice wizards could overcome it. This theory suggests that Dumbledore, knowing Hagrid and his habit of frequently visiting Fluffy, deliberately left the protection weak so that Hagrid could enter the room without trouble. Number 6, the legend of Harry's scar started with Hagrid. Harry's lightning-shaped scar became his signature mark. But how did people in the magical world know about the scar when it was only visible to a few? This theory suggests that Hagrid was the first to reveal information about the scar, quickly spreading the rumor in various circles. Perhaps this sparked Harry's rise to fame in the magical world. Number 7, Hagrid's mother was small. In The Goblet of Fire, it's revealed that Hagrid's mother, Fridwulfa, was a giantess, and his father was an ordinary wizard. But how could they be together given the vast difference in their sizes? Some fans propose a theory that Fridwulfa was not a full-fledged giantess, and her height was considerably smaller than that of other giants. This might explain how she could have a relationship with a human, and why her children didn't have the same enormous size as other giants. Number 8, Hagrid secretly protected Harry using magical creatures. Throughout the series, Hagrid surrounds himself and Harry with a variety of magical creatures: dragons, hippogriffs, a three-headed dog, giant spiders, and even thestrals. While this might seem like just Hagrid's passion for magical creatures, there's a fan theory that suggests a deeper purpose. Hagrid didn't just collect these creatures because he loved them. He deliberately brought them into Harry's life to provide protection when needed. His actions weren't random, but strategic, ensuring that Harry had a powerful army of creatures at his disposal, especially in times of danger. Take Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, for example. In the Chamber of Secrets, Fawkes saves Harry from the basilisk by healing his wound with tears and later aids in escaping the chamber. Or consider Grawp, Hagrid's giant half-brother who helps defend Hogwarts during the Battle of Hogwarts. And there's Buckbeak, the hippogriff, who saves Harry and Sirius from the Dementors in The Prisoner of Azkaban. Each of these creatures appeared at a critical moment, and Hagrid's influence over them played a key role in Harry's survival. Could it be that Hagrid, with his deep understanding of magical creatures, was quietly preparing them to protect Harry all along, knowing the boy's fate was tied to greater dangers? Number 9. Hagrid can cast magic without a wand. One fascinating fan theory suggests that Hagrid has the ability to perform magic without a wand, but he carefully hides this skill. Despite being officially expelled from Hogwarts and allegedly never completing his education, Hagrid has displayed sudden magical abilities that can't easily be explained by his broken wand. For instance, in the Philosopher's Stone, Hagrid effortlessly controls a boat through a storm, guiding it with ease while the wind howls and the waves crash. This seems like something more than simple luck or brute strength. How could someone without formal training perform such feats of control? Hagrid also shows an unusual knack for handling magical creatures that many would consider uncontrollable or dangerous. Whether it's calming a Buckbeak or commanding an acromantula like Aragog, Hagrid demonstrates an almost intuitive mastery over creatures with a deep understanding that goes beyond basic knowledge. Could these talents be a form of nonverbal magic? The theory posits that Hagrid's rare skill in silent magic is something he deliberately keeps hidden, not just to avoid attention from the Ministry of Magic, but also to protect Dumbledore and his friends from the dangers of suspicion. Perhaps his magical prowess is much greater than anyone suspects, and he chooses to keep it in the shadows for a reason. Number 10. Hagrid is the descendant of a famous wizard. Though Hagrid's lineage is officially known, half-giant, half-wizard, there's a theory that his ancestry may have deeper, more magical roots. Some fans believe that Hagrid is the descendant of a famous ancient wizard or witch, someone with a special connection to magic, particularly the kind that involves magical creatures. This theory suggests that Hagrid's unique affinity with creatures like hippogriffs, thestrals, and even dragons isn't just a product of his upbringing, but an inherited gift passed down through generations. One of the most compelling ideas is that Hagrid could be related to Newt Scamander, the famous Magizoologist and author of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This connection would explain why Hagrid has such an uncanny ability to understand and communicate with magical creatures. In the Philosopher's Stone, Hagrid shows an almost instinctive understanding of the creatures he cares for, like the way he calms down Buckbeak, despite the hippogriff's initial hostility. "You have to show 'em respect," he tells Harry, which reflects more than just knowledge. It feels like an instinctive bond. Could this be the legacy of a powerful ancestor who had a similar bond with magical creatures? The theory suggests that Hagrid's connection to animals is more than mere chance or training. It could be the result of a magical bloodline that gives him an inherent understanding of creatures that most witches and wizards could never grasp. Just like Scamander, whose passion for magical beasts defined his life, Hagrid might have inherited a rare and powerful affinity that allowed him to connect with creatures in a way others simply couldn't. This theory adds another layer to Hagrid's character, turning him from a simple half-giant to someone with a legacy that spans generations, making his bond with magical creatures not just a hobby, but a deeply ingrained part of who he is. Number 11. Hagrid always knew Harry had to die. There's a theory that suggests Hagrid knew far more than he ever let on. Think back to his emotional reaction in the Deathly Hallows when he carries Harry, believing him to be dead. His tears, his desperate cries, "Don't worry. Harry, we'll get you out of here," reveal a depth of sorrow that seems almost too heavy for him to bear. What if Hagrid always knew that Harry had to die, that the prophecy was clear, and Harry's fate was sealed from the start? Throughout the series, Hagrid shows a unique and profound care for Harry, often putting him first. His protective nature, his willingness to help, even when it put him at odds with others, always stood out. But was it because he knew Harry's ultimate destiny? In the Goblet of Fire, when Harry is selected as a Triwizard Champion, Hagrid's worry is evident. "You don't have to do it, Harry," he says, a shadow of foreknowledge creeping into his words. Could it be that Hagrid already knew what was at stake? That Harry's path was leading to a sacrifice none of them wanted to acknowledge? His care for Harry takes on a tragic dimension in the Deathly Hallows. When he carries Harry through the Forbidden Forest, convinced his young friend is gone, his grief is unbearable. "I'll never forget you, Harry," Hagrid whispers, his voice full of sorrow. What if this moment wasn't just about losing a friend, but about the deep, painful understanding that Harry had to die to destroy Voldemort? That this was the price of victory, a truth Hagrid had to silently carry with him. Perhaps this was the hardest secret for Hagrid to keep, the knowledge that Harry's fate was to die for the greater good. The emotional weight in his actions, especially when he comforts Harry throughout the series, now takes on an even deeper layer. He was a friend, a protector, but also someone who understood the heartbreaking necessity of what was to come. And in his final moments with Harry, Hagrid's tears were not just for the loss of a friend, but for the sacrifice that Harry had to make to end the darkness forever. Number 12. Hagrid will become headmaster of Hogwarts in the future. Fans love the theory that Hagrid, after all the events of the series, eventually receives the reward he truly deserves, becoming the headmaster of Hogwarts. Throughout the books, Hagrid is portrayed as a kind-hearted and loyal figure who, despite his many flaws, is always there for the students. In The Philosopher's Stone, he risks his life to protect Harry, and throughout the series, he shows deep care for his students. It's clear that his heart is always in the right place. But what if, after everything, he was recognized for these qualities in the most meaningful way possible? According to this theory, after Professor McGonagall retires as headmistress, Hagrid is the one who takes over the position. Having remained the beloved care of magical creatures teacher, he would eventually rise to the role of headmaster, bringing a unique warmth and kindness to the job. It might seem unlikely to some, as Hagrid doesn't fit the traditional mold of a headmaster. He's not stern like Professor Snape or organized like McGonagall, but Dumbledore, who often said that the most important qualities for a headmaster were kindness and the ability to protect students, would undoubtedly have approved of Hagrid. Remember that Dumbledore himself, with his eccentricities and unconventional ways, was a leader who cared deeply for his students and for the good of the school. He believed in protecting the students from harm, and that was something Hagrid understood perfectly. Hagrid's loyalty, his willingness to sacrifice for others, and his unwavering sense of right and wrong made him a natural leader, even if he didn't always appear to be one. These are qualities that Hogwarts students would have respected and loved. In the years following the events of the books, Hagrid's experience and heart would guide him as headmaster. He would be the kind of headmaster students could trust, someone who would listen, protect, and care for them. And in the end, he would be remembered not just for his magical abilities or his towering presence, but for his love and care for every student who passed through the school's doors. Number 13. Hagrid secretly controlled the forest and its inhabitants. The Forbidden Forest always seemed like a wild, untamed place, teeming with monsters that could easily pose a threat to the safety of Hogwarts students. But what if there was more to it? Some fans believe Hagrid, with his deep bond to magical creatures, secretly controlled the forest and its inhabitants. His connection to the forest wasn't just a passing interest, it was a power that ran through every corner of the woods. Take Aragog, the giant acromantula. Despite being able to easily overwhelm the school with his army of spiders, Aragog never made a move against Hogwarts. Why? We don't harm students unless ordered, Aragog explains to Harry and Ron, revealing the complex relationship between Hagrid and the creatures of the forest. It's clear that Hagrid, in some way, kept Aragog's aggression in check. This wasn't mere coincidence. Hagrid had influence over the creatures, a quiet authority that kept them from causing harm. Then there are the centaurs. Known for their rebellious and independent nature, they could have easily ventured out of the forest and caused chaos. Yet they stayed within the forest's boundaries. In The Philosopher's Stone, Firenze, the centaur who helps Harry, explains, "We are bound to the stars and we have our laws. But could it also be that Hagrid's presence in the forest kept the centaurs in line? His respect for them and their customs likely gave him a unique standing that discouraged them from crossing certain lines. Even the hippogriffs and unicorns, creatures that could easily become agitated or violent, remained calm and cooperative under Hagrid's care. Buckbeak, the hippogriff Hagrid introduces to the students, shows no signs of aggression when treated respectfully. Hagrid's soothing presence in the forest created an unspoken balance between the dangers of the creatures and the safety of the students. This theory suggests that Hagrid, with his deep knowledge and love for magical creatures, acted as the forest's unseen guardian, maintaining order where others saw only chaos. Number 14. Hagrid intentionally revealed Fluffy's secret to Quirrell. In The Philosopher's Stone, Hagrid unintentionally revealed the secret to bypassing Fluffy, the three-headed dog guarding the trapdoor, to the Philosopher's Stone, to Professor Quirrell. This seemed like a simple mistake, an innocent slip of the tongue, but there is a popular fan theory suggesting that it was far from accidental. Instead, Hagrid's revelation was a calculated move. The theory claims that Hagrid was following Dumbledore's secret instructions, deliberately letting slip the information to lure Quirrell and Voldemort into a trap. Dumbledore, knowing Hagrid's inability to lie convincingly, would have recognized that the half-giant's harmlessness would make any information he revealed seem credible. Hagrid, who could not lie to save his life, was a perfect tool, the theory suggests. Dumbledore, ever the strategist, understood that Quirrell would trust the information from a man like Hagrid, who was known for his honesty and simple nature. In a world full of secrets and deception, Hagrid's sincerity was his greatest asset. When Hagrid tells Quirrell, Fluffy's a really soft dog, but you've got to play him music, you see, it seems like a harmless conversation. However, Dumbledore would have known that this seemingly innocent detail about the dog would open the door to the stone for Quirrell. Hagrid's slip was no mistake. It was a piece of a much larger plan. The old wizard knew that Voldemort, in his desperate pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone, would never resist taking the bait. The most striking part of this theory is that despite the seeming carelessness, the move worked. Quirrell, guided by his newfound knowledge, made his way to the trap-door, unaware of the greater trap laid for him. Dumbledore's brilliance lay in using Hagrid's honesty against the Dark Lord, manipulating events without directly involving himself. In the end, what seemed like a mistake was a brilliant move in a game of wizarding chess. Number 15. Hagrid might be immortal. One of the most captivating fan theories surrounding the Harry Potter universe suggests that Rubeus Hagrid, the beloved keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, might be immortal. or at least aging at an incredibly slow rate. Hagrid, with his towering figure and giant heart, has always been an enigma to many of the characters in the books. His size, strength, and peculiar nature have made him stand out, even among the magical community. However, it's not just his larger-than-life persona that fans find intriguing, but his apparent lack of aging. For decades, Hagrid has remained remarkably unchanged. As he's introduced to the story in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, he is already in his 60s or 70s, yet he still seems to have the energy, vigor, and personality of someone much younger. Throughout the series, Hagrid doesn't appear to age significantly. He continues to work at Hogwarts, care for magical creatures, and even takes on dangerous missions without any visible signs of fatigue or wear. This has led some fans to speculate that Hagrid's giant blood may be responsible for his unnaturally slow aging, allowing him to appear youthful long after a normal wizard would have begun to show the effects of time. It's well known that Hagrid is part giant. His mother, Fridwulfa, was a giantess, and his father, a wizard, left him when he was still young. Giants, according to the lore of the Harry Potter world, are a distinct species that age at a much slower rate than humans. While the full nature of giant biology isn't extensively explored in the books, the most notable giant we encounter is Grawp, Hagrid's younger half-brother. Grawp, though large and strong, is a child in terms of his mental development, suggesting that giants mature slowly, both physically and mentally. If Hagrid's giant heritage influences his aging process, it would make sense that he could have a lifespan far exceeding that of a typical wizard, perhaps living for centuries or even millennia. Hagrid's longevity could also be an extension of his mixed heritage, blending wizard and giant blood. In the magical world, there are numerous instances of mixed magical creatures, each with its own set of enhanced abilities. For instance, Harry's own magical abilities are partly due to his connection with his parents, both highly skilled witches and wizards. In Hagrid's case, the infusion of giant blood could offer him unique advantages, such as increased strength, resilience, and perhaps an immunity to the usual passage of time. Moreover, Hagrid's role at Hogwarts seems almost timeless. He has been the keeper of keys and grounds at the school for as long as anyone can remember. The way he is described, always present, always there. For students, suggests a level of stability that is rare in the ever-changing world of wizards. His job involves taking care of magical creatures, teaching students, and protecting the grounds of the school from external threats. It's a responsibility that could span generations, and it's not hard to imagine that Hagrid, with his extended lifespan, might continue fulfilling his duties for centuries, watching over the school and its students as they come and go. The idea of him being a permanent fixture at Hogwarts, outlasting even the long lives of many wizards, is a comforting thought for fans of the series who are attached to his warm and nurturing presence. A key example of Hagrid's remarkable nature is his interactions with magical creatures. He is often seen tending to them with a level of care and understanding that goes beyond mere sympathy or affection. Hagrid's bond with creatures like Buckbeak, the giant acromantula Aragog, and even the fiercely dangerous dragon Norbert all demonstrate his ability to form lasting connections. These creatures are not just beasts in his care, they are lifelong companions. Hagrid's willingness to dedicate his life to the care of these creatures suggests that he may not view time in the same way others do. For most wizards, a creature's lifespan is just a short moment, but for Hagrid, these friendships could span decades or even centuries, assuming he outlives them. In Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Hagrid's deep love for creatures is apparent when he releases Buckbeak, the hippogriff, back into the wild. His decision is bittersweet, but it demonstrates a deep understanding of the creature's need for freedom. "I'll be all right, Harry," he says, his voice cracking. I know I'll be all right." For Hagrid, life with magical creatures is not just about companionship, it's about honoring the natural cycles of life, even when those cycles don't align with human expectations. This respect for life, whether human, magical, or otherwise, makes the idea of Hagrid's immortality all the more poignant. As the world changes around him, Hagrid's ability to adapt, to nurture, and to protect endures. If he truly is immortal, it is fitting that he spends his time caring for magical creatures whose lives are so fleeting in comparison to his own. Another subtle hint toward Hagrid's potential immortality lies in his connection to the Forbidden Forest. The forest is a place of ancient power, teeming with magical creatures and ancient magic. Hagrid's deep bond with the forest, which he knows better than anyone, could be another factor in his longevity. The Forbidden Forest is not just a place of danger, it is also a sanctuary, a place where creatures are protected and where life is nurtured. Hagrid's affinity for this mysterious place may be a reflection of his own connection to the land and the magical forces that govern it. It is possible that, through his connection to the forest and its creatures, Hagrid has tapped into some form of magical energy that helps preserve his vitality. Number 16, Hagrid was the one who found Tom Riddle's diary. The mystery surrounding Tom Riddle's diary has always been one of the most intriguing aspects of the Harry Potter series. Fans have long speculated about how the diary ended up in the hands of Lucius Malfoy, but there is an alternative theory that places the responsibility on a seemingly unlikely character, Rubeus Hagrid. According to this theory, Hagrid, who had been expelled from Hogwarts years earlier because of Tom Riddle's accusations, was the one who first discovered the diary long after the events surrounding the Chamber of Secrets had passed. However, due to his lack of understanding of the diary's true power, Hagrid might have unwittingly contributed to the return of Lord Voldemort, setting the stage for the events that would unfold years later. Rubeus Hagrid, the beloved half-giant keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, is a character known for his loyalty, warmth, and somewhat misguided enthusiasm. His deep connection with the magical world is well established, but Hagrid's sometimes reckless nature often puts him in situations that can easily spiral out of control. His expulsion from Hogwarts in 1943 is one of the darkest chapters in his past. Accused of opening the Chamber of Secrets and unleashing the monster within, Hagrid was blamed for the death of a student, despite being innocent. Tom Riddle, as a young student, framed Hagrid for the crime and made sure that the truth was buried. The monster in the chamber was later revealed to be a giant acromantula spider which Hagrid had kept as a pet. But as we know, the blame fell on him, and he was expelled from Hogwarts. After his expulsion, Hagrid's life seemed to be shaped by his exile, but that was not to be his final connection with the dark history surrounding the Chamber of Secrets. The theory proposes that years after his expulsion, while on a journey to the Forbidden Forest, or possibly in one of his many excursions into the wild, Hagrid stumbled upon Tom Riddle's diary, which had somehow survived the many years since the chamber's opening. How the diary came into Hagrid's possession is unclear, but it is suggested that it could have been discarded or hidden away by someone else who was aware of its sinister potential. As we know, Tom Riddle's diary was no ordinary object. It was a Horcrux, a dark magical item that housed a piece of Lord Voldemort's soul. The diary itself possessed the ability to possess and control the minds of those who wrote in it, as shown when Ginny Weasley, in her first year at Hogwarts, became a pawn in Voldemort's scheme through the diary. But in the case of Hagrid, there was no indication that he fully understood the implications of the diary when he first found it. Hagrid was a protector at heart, but his lack of knowledge about the dark arts and the deeper aspects of magic could have led him to overlook the danger. Perhaps he thought of it as nothing more than an old artifact or relic from his time at school, unaware of the evil that had seeped into its pages. In his innocence, Hagrid may have simply kept the diary or tried to use it for some benign purpose, not recognizing its true nature. Over the years, the diary could have been passed through various hands, potentially with Hagrid unknowingly handing it over to someone else. Perhaps he gave it to a friend or someone he trusted, believing it had no real value. But that might not have been the case at all. The diary, with its malevolent magic, would have found its way into the hands of someone with darker intentions, as we later discover with Lucius Malfoy. Lucius Malfoy's involvement with the diary is crucial in understanding how it eventually played a significant role in the return of Voldemort. Lucius, who had a deep-rooted hatred for Muggleborns and a desire to bring Voldemort back to power, secretly gave the diary to his own daughter, Ginny Weasley, in an attempt to use her as a vessel to resurrect the Dark Lord. He knew exactly what the diary was and how it could be used. However, he also knew that the diary had the power to corrupt, control, and destroy those who came into contact with it. This manipulation of Ginny led to the opening of the Chamber of Secrets and a series of deadly events at Hogwarts. But what if it was Hagrid who had unknowingly set the chain of events in motion? What if, by finding the diary and not realizing its dangers, he had passed it along to someone who ultimately delivered it to Lucius Malfoy? The theory suggests that this series of innocent actions by Hagrid, combined with his lack of understanding, made him the unwitting catalyst for Voldemort's return. After all, Hagrid was one of the few people who could have had access to the magical artifacts that lay hidden, either due to his past connection with the magical world or because of his work at Hogwarts. Hagrid's subsequent actions, including his deep devotion to the students and his desire to protect the magical creatures of the Forbidden Forest, may have been part of his attempt to atone for his past mistakes. But this theory suggests that his past with the diary was something he could not fully comprehend. In a sense, he was entangled in the very events he had once been falsely accused of starting. Number 17. Hagrid could communicate with all magical creatures. Hagrid's unique bond with magical creatures has long been a subject of fascination for Harry Potter fans. Among his many talents, one stands out: his uncanny ability to communicate with and form close relationships with all sorts of magical beings, from the majestic hippogriff Buckbeak to the fire-breathing Hungarian Horntail. Hagrid effortlessly interacts with creatures that most witches and wizards would be terrified to approach. Some fans, intrigued by this ability, have posited a theory that Hagrid possesses a rare and mystical gift akin to Parseltongue, the ability to speak to snakes, but on a much broader scale. This fan theory suggests that Hagrid's power allows him to communicate with all magical creatures, an idea that offers a fascinating lens through which to view his interactions with the magical world. One of the most compelling examples of Hagrid's talent is his relationship with Buckbeak, the hippogriff. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry and Hermione first encounter Buckbeak, the creature is initially hostile and defensive, as hippogriffs are known to be very proud. However, Hagrid's approach is calm and respectful, and he is able to forge an instant connection with Buckbeak, allowing the creature to bow in return. This moment is striking because it demonstrates how Hagrid's approach transcends what most witches and wizards would consider the typical method of dealing with magical creatures. Buckbeak, who would otherwise have likely attacked anyone else who approached too carelessly, seems to sense that Hagrid means no harm and that he can be trusted. Hagrid, in turn, seems to intuitively understand the creature's mood and behavior, responding with the right amount of respect and caution. This isn't the only time Hagrid has showcased his gift. Another famous example of his extraordinary connection with magical creatures is his encounter with Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. When Hagrid wins the dragon egg in a card game and it hatches into a ferocious dragon, it is clear that most wizards would want nothing to do with such a dangerous creature. Yet Hagrid, far from being frightened, feels an immediate bond with the dragon. He cares for Norbert like a pet, feeding him and nurturing him in a way that seems to come naturally to him. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Hagrid even takes the dragon with him to the leaky cauldron, where he proudly shows him off to Harry, Ron, and Hermione. While most would view this as an act of reckless abandon, Hagrid's deep understanding of the creature allows him to manage Norbert with relative ease. He seems to have an instinctual grasp of what the dragon needs and how to keep it calm, even though dragons are known for their fierce temperaments. Another key moment that sheds light on Hagrid's unique ability is his handling of Fluffy, the three-headed dog. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Harry, Ron, and Hermione accidentally stumble upon the enormous creature while investigating the hidden trapdoor in the Forbidden Corridor, they find that Fluffy, like most magical creatures, is incredibly dangerous. However, Hagrid's interactions with Fluffy are much different than those of the trio. He treats the beast with kindness and affection, and it's clear that he has a special bond with the three-headed dog. Fluffy, whose sheer size and strength would make anyone else hesitate, behaves calmly around Hagrid, allowing him to command the creature with a sense of ease that most would find unimaginable. This interaction further suggests that Hagrid has a deep connection to magical creatures, one that goes beyond simple care or affection. He seems to understand them on a level that few others can. While Hagrid's relationship with magical creatures is often viewed as a product of his gentle nature and love for animals, the fan theory about him having a rare gift for communication with all magical beings adds another layer to his character. It suggests that his bond with these creatures isn't just a matter of luck or circumstance, but rather something intrinsic to him, something that gives him an almost mystical ability to connect with animals in ways that no one else can. This theory also helps to explain why Hagrid has such an effortless rapport with creatures that others would find impossible to tame or even approach. Moreover, the theory suggests that Hagrid's gift may not be limited to the more common magical creatures that populate the wizarding world. He seems to possess an innate understanding of the more obscure and dangerous beings as well. Take, for example, the giant Grawp, whom Hagrid introduces to Harry and the others in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. While Grawp is initially a terrifying figure, Hagrid's kindness and patience allow him to form a bond with the giant that no one else seems able to achieve. Grawp, despite his size and aggression, responds to Hagrid's care, even showing signs of affection toward him. Hagrid's understanding of Grawp is so deep that when he asks Harry and Hermione to help him with the giant, it's clear that he believes they are capable of seeing Grawp not as a threat, but as a misunderstood creature in need of attention and compassion. Hagrid's relationship with Grawp could be seen as an extension of his gift, as it demonstrates his ability to communicate with creatures that others would perceive as monsters or threats. His bond with Grawp isn't based on brute force or intimidation, but on trust, patience, and understanding. In many ways, this mirrors his interactions with all magical creatures, where his deep connection to the creatures he cares for is rooted in empathy and respect rather than control or dominance. Number 18. Hagrid knew where a Horcrux was but stayed silent. Rubeus Hagrid, the lovable half-giant, was never just a simple gamekeeper at Hogwarts. His heart, as big as his size, was filled with a loyalty and a deep sense of duty, especially when it came to his beloved students. But hidden beneath his affable nature and his passion for magical creatures, there was a layer of complexity that many fans of the Harry Potter series have long speculated about. One particular fan theory suggests that Hagrid, in fact, knew the location of one of Voldemort's Horcruxes long before Harry and his friends ever set out to destroy them. Specifically, the theory posits that Hagrid was aware of the Slytherin medallion, which had once been in the possession of Regulus Black, and that he either deliberately remained silent or failed to act upon this knowledge due to trust in Dumbledore and a lack of understanding of the object's true significance. Hagrid's role in the Order of the Phoenix, particularly his involvement in the Black family home, provides the backdrop for this theory. The Black family house at 12 Grimmauld Place served as the secret headquarters for the Order. During the Second Wizarding War, this was a place where many secrets were hidden and countless dark objects were stashed away, including a number of Voldemort's precious artifacts. Among them was a locket, a Horcrux, to be precise, once owned by Salazar Slytherin himself. The medallion, however, was not initially recognized as a Horcrux by many, including those who were aware of the Black family's grim legacy. The key to understanding this theory lies in the idea that Hagrid, by virtue of his frequent visits to the Black House and his connection to the Order, might have unknowingly or knowingly encountered this object. As the gamekeeper at Hogwarts and a trusted member of the Order, Hagrid was often called upon to aid in tasks that involved exploring dark magic, particularly in situations where the safety of Hogwarts was at stake. One such occasion was his presence at the Black family home. When the house was used as a headquarters, Hagrid would have been familiar with its dark, eerie atmosphere. The Black House was known for being filled with sinister objects, relics of the Black family's proud but twisted past. Hagrid was no stranger to these types of environments, as he had spent his entire life dealing with magical creatures that were often misunderstood or feared by others. It's important to note that while Hagrid had a strong knowledge of magical creatures, he was not an expert in dark arts. He was knowledgeable, certainly, but his expertise lay more in the realm of magical beasts than in objects of dark power. This is a crucial element in the fan theory. The Slytherin medallion was an object imbued with powerful and dark magic, a Horcrux that held a piece of Voldemort's soul. The very nature of Horcruxes is that they are cursed and infused with dark magic that could potentially be sensed by someone with the right magical aptitude. However, Hagrid, whose magical expertise did not extend into the dark arts, might not have immediately recognized the significance of the medallion, even if he had come across it in the house. One could imagine Hagrid walking through the Black House, his eyes scanning the room filled with old family relics. Perhaps he noticed something unusual, a dark aura surrounding a small locket tucked away among other trinkets. It would not have been out of character for Hagrid to pass by such a thing without giving it a second thought. He was, after all, not someone who would jump to conclusions about magical items, especially in a house as shrouded in mystery and darkness as the Blacks. His focus was always on the people and the creatures around him, and his loyalty to Dumbledore might have led him to trust that the Order was dealing with things beyond his understanding. But the fan theory also proposes an alternative. Perhaps Hagrid did recognize the magical aura around the medallion. After all, even if he was not versed in dark magic, Hagrid was not a fool. He was deeply connected to Dumbledore, and Dumbledore, as we know, was a master of many forms of magic, including those that dealt with the most dangerous elements. It's entirely possible that Hagrid, sensing the power within the medallion, understood that it was not something that could be dealt with lightly. However, his trust in Dumbledore, a man who had always guided him, may have led him to remain silent, believing that Dumbledore would be the one to deal with it in due time. Perhaps in his mind there was no need to intervene. Hagrid was known to follow Dumbledore's lead with unwavering faith, often trusting the headmaster's judgment even in situations that were perilous. The silence surrounding Hagrid's possible knowledge of the Horcrux is consistent with his character. Throughout the series, Hagrid often kept secrets not out of malice or a desire to deceive, but because he believed certain things were best left in the hands of those more equipped to handle them. This is evident when he conceals the existence of the Philosopher's Stone from Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and when he holds back crucial information about the dangers surrounding the Triwizard Tournament. Hagrid's reticence in these instances was always motivated by a deep sense of protection for his friends, a desire to shield them from harm. So, the fan theory suggests that if Hagrid did know about the Slytherin medallion's significance, he may have chosen not to reveal it to Harry or anyone else because he trusted Dumbledore to handle it. Another reason for Hagrid's silence could be his own understanding of his limitations. Throughout the series we see that Hagrid is often depicted as someone who understands that there are certain things he cannot do, and that he needs to rely on others for help. In the case of the Horcrux, it is possible that Hagrid knew he was not the one to deal with it. In his heart, he may have believed that only someone with the proper magical expertise like Dumbledore or Harry could handle such a dangerous object. This theory posits that Hagrid, realizing his own limitations, kept quiet about the medallion, trusting that it would be dealt with by those more knowledgeable. The idea that Hagrid was aware of the Slytherin medallion also ties into the broader theme of the series. The idea that some characters are aware of secrets but choose not to act upon them. Throughout Harry Potter, there are numerous instances where characters keep secrets, whether to protect others or because they believe that revealing too much too soon could cause more harm than good. Dumbledore himself, for instance, kept many things hidden from Harry, especially regarding the Horcruxes, until the time was right. Hagrid's silence, therefore, could be seen as a reflection of this larger narrative of withholding information until it is absolutely necessary to share it. There is a compelling moment in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince when Harry, after learning about the existence of Horcruxes, begins to question who might have known about them before him. It's possible that Hagrid, in his visits to Grimmauld Place, had some inkling about the medallion's importance. Perhaps he noticed Regulus Black's obsession with the dark arts and understood that something sinister was at play in the Black family's history. However, Hagrid, always a man of action rather than theory, may have dismissed these suspicions as inconclusive, never fully connecting the dots until much later. Ultimately, the theory that Hagrid knew about the Slytherin medallion but kept it to himself speaks to the complexity of his character. He was a man who, despite his immense loyalty and love for Harry, understood the importance of trust, silence, and sometimes stepping back to allow others to take charge. Hagrid's role in the story is one of a protector and guide, but also one who knows when to let go, trusting in others to carry the burden. Whether he truly knew about the Horcrux or not, his silence, in this light, can be seen as a reflection of his deep respect for Dumbledore's wisdom and his belief that some battles are better fought by others. Number 19. Hagrid's umbrella is an ancient artifact. In the world of Harry Potter, few characters are as beloved and enigmatic as Rubeus Hagrid, the half-giant keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. His towering frame and gentle demeanor mask a life filled with tragedy, adventure, and mystery. Throughout the series, Hagrid's relationship with magic is often questioned. Having been expelled from Hogwarts in his 3rd year for a crime he didn't commit, Hagrid is left with a broken wand, one that's still, in many ways, a symbol of his tragic past. But there's a fan theory that suggests that Hagrid's wand, or rather his umbrella, is more than just a tool for bending the rules. It may be an ancient, magical artifact in its own right. When Dumbledore, ever the enigmatic figure, chose not to simply hand Hagrid a new wand after his expulsion, fans were left wondering why. The wizarding world places great emphasis on the magical power of a wand, So why would a figure like Dumbledore, who was known for his deep understanding of magic, choose such an unconventional solution? The theory suggests that Dumbledore's choice to provide Hagrid with the umbrella wasn't merely an act of kindness, it was a calculated decision that was steeped in the history of magic itself. The umbrella, seen as a mere substitute for Hagrid's lost wand, may have been a deliberate nod to a hidden treasure of ancient magic. Some fans have speculated that the umbrella is not just a simple, everyday item, but rather an ancient artifact of great power. It is said that the object amplifies the magic of its wielder, allowing them to perform feats that they might not be able to do with a broken or incomplete wand. In Hagrid's case, it would explain how he could still cast powerful spells, such as summoning the flying motorcycle or creating an enormous fire, despite his wand being damaged beyond repair. One could ask why Dumbledore, who was certainly aware of Hagrid's limitations, would entrust him with such a tool. Perhaps it was because of the respect Dumbledore had for Hagrid's character. Knowing that Hagrid had a deep connection to magical creatures, an area where magical prowess was less about formal education and more about instinct and compassion, Dumbledore might have seen the umbrella as a fitting gift. It would allow Hagrid to continue performing magic in a way that was more aligned with his natural talents, rather than forcing him to conform to the rigid academic standards of Hogwarts. The history of magical artifacts within the wizarding world is rich with examples of objects that are much more than they seem. The Elder Wand, for instance, is known to be one of the most powerful wands in existence. The Mirror of Erised grants the viewer the ability to see their heart's deepest desire, though at the cost of their own happiness. These artifacts, like the umbrella, serve as symbols of both power and potential. The umbrella then might represent not only Hagrid's lost opportunities, but also a chance for him to continue fulfilling his role as a protector of the magical and non-magical worlds alike. What makes this theory all the more fascinating is the idea that the umbrella was in fact a gift from someone with an understanding of ancient magical practices. In the books, Dumbledore is often described as being aware of many secrets of the magical world, including those of the past. He knew how to read between the lines of history and how to use this knowledge to his advantage. It would not be beyond him to possess or be aware of a powerful artifact like Hagrid's umbrella, and it is not a stretch to think that he might have provided it to Hagrid as a subtle form of compensation for the injustice he suffered as a young student. This idea also ties into the overarching theme of the series, the tension between the old and the new, between the structured education at Hogwarts and the untamed magic that exists in the world. Hagrid, being a man of nature and a lover of creatures that most wizards and witches would shy away from, is a character that represents the raw, untapped power of magic. In a way, the umbrella serves as a bridge between the structured, magical education of Hogwarts and the unpredictable, wild magic that Hagrid himself embodies. It is a tool that both limits and expands his magical abilities in ways that a normal wand would not. In this sense, it is a perfect reflection of Hagrid himself, a character who is both constrained by his past and liberated by his love for the magical creatures that others fear. In terms of practicality, the umbrella is an odd object for a wizard of Hagrid's stature to carry. It is not a traditional wand, yet it serves the same purpose, enabling its owner to perform spells. The idea that the umbrella is more than it seems is further supported by the fact that Hagrid, despite his emotional nature and occasional clumsiness, is able to perform quite sophisticated magic with it. Take, for example, his use of the umbrella when he flies with Harry and Ron in the flying motorcycle. The spell itself is a complex one, requiring not just skill, but a specific type of magic, one that resonates with Hagrid's connection to the magical world around him. This theory also raises questions about the nature of magical objects in general. While wands are perhaps the most well-known magical tools, they are not the only items that hold great magical power. The story of the Philosopher's Stone demonstrates this clearly, as the stone itself is an object of immense power, sought by both Voldemort and Dumbledore. Similarly, the Triwizard Cup, the Locket of Slytherin, and other magical objects throughout the series serve as key plot devices. These objects, much like Hagrid's umbrella, are imbued with powerful magic that cannot always be fully explained or understood. They hold secrets both in their function and in their history, making them integral to the progression of the story. The umbrella's possible connection to ancient magic also invites speculation about the origins of the magical world itself. If the umbrella is truly a relic from a bygone era, it suggests that there was a time when magic was more free-flowing, less bound by the rigid rules that govern the modern magical world. This ties into the broader question of whether magic, as we know it, has become too confined by rules and regulations. Hagrid, with his love for magical creatures and his disregard for some of the more conventional norms of wizard society, represents a return to that more primal, untamed form of magic. Ultimately, Hagrid's umbrella as an artifact would not only explain his continued magical abilities, but also serve as a symbol of his journey. From the outcast student who was unjustly punished, to the loyal friend and protector who uses magic in ways that others can't, Hagrid's umbrella encapsulates his growth and evolution as a character. It is a subtle yet powerful reminder of the injustices he faced, the mysteries that still linger in the wizarding world, and the idea that magic is not always as straightforward as it seems. The theory surrounding Hagrid's umbrella, while speculative, offers a fascinating perspective on his character and the larger world of Harry Potter. It invites readers to consider the deeper mysteries of the magical world, the artifacts that hold great power, and the idea that sometimes the most unassuming objects may hold the greatest secrets. Number 20. Hagrid and his father were outcasts. Rubeus. Hagrid, the half-giant gamekeeper and care of magical creatures professor at Hogwarts, has always seemed like an eccentric, misunderstood figure in the Harry Potter series. His towering stature, shaggy hair, and affinity for magical creatures that others fear have made him an outlier in the magical world. But behind his kind-hearted nature and gruff exterior, there may lie a much more complex history, one that sheds light on his outsider status. A fan theory proposes that Hagrid's father, a giant, was not simply absent from his life, but was instead part of a larger, darker narrative of exile and shame. According to this theory, Hagrid and his father were not just on the fringes of the magical community because of their giant blood, but because they were exiled from society due to ancient conflicts and deep-rooted prejudices that ran far beyond Hagrid's biological heritage. Hagrid's own account of his life, as he shared with Harry Potter, paints a solitary image. He tells Harry that his mother, a giantess, left when he was very young, leaving his father, a wizard, to raise him alone. Hagrid recounts, "My dad was a great man, a great wizard. He never complained about raising me on his own, though, and he never spoke ill of my mother." The idea that his mother simply disappeared, however, doesn't fit neatly into the typical narrative of family separation. Some fans believe that Hagrid's mother was not just absent due to personal reasons, but because she too may have been part of a greater exile. Her leaving could have been part of a punishment or separation from magical society, perhaps even an imposed isolation by the Ministry of Magic. If we examine Hagrid's father's background, the theory begins to take on a darker dimension. Hagrid's father, though we never meet him in the series, is described as a figure deeply connected to magical creatures, most notably the giants. The giants had long been in conflict with the wizarding world, with their history marked by violent clashes with wizards who sought to control them. These historical tensions were worsened by the fact that giants, with their brutal ways, were often seen as little more than savage beasts by the Ministry of Magic. Hagrid's father, in his relationship with Hagrid's mother, might have represented a long-standing alliance, or even a rebellion, against the Ministry's treatment of magical creatures. Hagrid's father may have been a key figure in the movement that sought to protect and understand the magical creatures of the world, including the giants. This connection with the beasts may have made him a pariah among the wizarding elite. The isolation Hagrid faced in his youth can also be understood through the lens of this exile. If Hagrid's father was part of a faction that stood in opposition to the Ministry's views on magical creatures, this would explain why Hagrid, even as a child, was raised on the outskirts of wizarding society. The magical community was always suspicious of half-breeds, but it's not just Hagrid's giant heritage that would have marked him as different. It was the stigma surrounding his father's political beliefs and his possible involvement in the giant conflicts that caused his family to be ostracized. The sheer fact that Hagrid, a half-giant, was able to find a place for himself at Hogwarts is a testament to his resilience, but also a reflection of how unwelcoming the wizarding world was to those who did not fit the mold. One of the key elements of this fan theory lies in the contrast between Hagrid's role in the magical community and his evident love for the creatures that others fear. Hagrid, who has a deep affection for dragons, hippogriffs, and thestrals, is an outsider in the magical world not because of his giant blood alone, but because he has chosen to advocate for the creatures that most wizards consider dangerous or beneath them. His job as Keeper of Keys and Grounds, and later as the Professor of Care of Magical Creatures at Hogwarts, though a position of responsibility, is far from the prestigious roles that other wizards hold. Hagrid is not a part of the elite, and his job often keeps him on the fringes of wizarding society. His deep empathy for magical creatures, while endearing, also makes him suspicious in the eyes of the Ministry and many of his peers. The very fact that he works with creatures like Fluffy, the three-headed dog, or the blast-ended Scroots, marks him as someone who is both loved and feared. But if we consider the theory that Hagrid's family was exiled due to his father's involvement with magical creatures, it adds layers of complexity to his relationship with these beings. He isn't merely a man with a penchant for dangerous creatures. He is, perhaps unknowingly, continuing the work of his father, a work that went against the established order. His father might have fought for the giants, sought peace between them and wizards, and ultimately paid the price for those actions by being cast out from the wizarding world. As a result, Hagrid's life became a continuation of his father's legacy, a legacy of defiance against the Ministry and the magical elite. Hagrid's loyalty to Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts, is another piece of the puzzle. Dumbledore, who was known for his progressive ideas and his willingness to defend the marginalized, was perhaps one of the only wizards who understood and accepted Hagrid for who he was. This theory posits that Hagrid's unwavering loyalty to Dumbledore stems from a deep gratitude and a shared sense of outsider status. Dumbledore, who was constantly at odds with the Ministry and who defended the rights of magical creatures, would have been one of the few people to offer Hagrid a position of importance and dignity in the wizarding world. It is through Dumbledore's mentorship that Hagrid was able to find purpose, even as he was continually rejected by the broader society. Another example of Hagrid's loyalty to Dumbledore comes during the events of the Triwizard Tournament, when Hagrid reveals the truth about the dragons to Harry. Hagrid doesn't simply view Dumbledore as a mentor, but as a symbol of resistance to the injustices that he himself experienced. When he helps Harry prepare for the first task, he knows full well that his actions are in defiance of the Ministry's rules. Hagrid's trust in Dumbledore, coupled with his role in the tournament, demonstrates that he has found a figure who not only accepts him, but who represents everything that his father might have fought for, the protection and respect of magical creatures. Hagrid's deep connection with the outcasts of the magical world, be they magical creatures or marginalized wizards, further suggests that his life was shaped by the influence of his exiled father. It is telling that despite the wizarding world's fear and distrust of his heritage, Hagrid never lets that drive him to hatred. Instead, he channels his energy into caring for the creatures and beings that others fear. His journey isn't just about overcoming the prejudice against his giant blood, but about embracing the world that had shunned him. Hagrid is a protector of those who have been abandoned, just as he was in his youth. Through this fan theory, we gain a deeper understanding of Hagrid's role in the Harry Potter series. It's not just his lineage that sets him apart, it is his father's legacy, his beliefs, and the political ideologies he carried with him. Hagrid's life, filled with both love and loss, mirrors the conflict between the Ministry of Magic and the creatures it sought to control. His devotion to Dumbledore, his care for magical creatures, and his constant outsider status all speak to the larger narrative of exiled figures trying to find their place in a world that doesn't accept them. Hagrid's story is one of resilience, loyalty, and ultimately redemption, not just for him, but for the magical creatures he so fiercely defends. Number 21. Hagrid was secretly in love with McGonagall. Hagrid was always a figure that exuded kindness and warmth, a giant of a man with a heart even larger than his imposing stature. However, there is an interesting fan theory that posits something a little unexpected. Hagrid might have had feelings for Professor McGonagall. This theory, while surprising to some, has garnered its share of supporters who point to subtle moments in the books that seem to suggest more than just professional camaraderie between the two characters. Throughout the series, Hagrid and McGonagall are depicted as colleagues who share a mutual respect for each other. Both were key members of the staff at Hogwarts, and they had a long history of working side by side. They were often seen in meetings together, with Hagrid bringing a particular, sometimes childlike, admiration for McGonagall's intelligence and strength. In many ways, Hagrid's personality contrasts sharply with McGonagall's. She is sharp, no-nonsense, and often stern, while he is more emotional and playful, occasionally naive. Yet despite their differences, their bond seems unshakable, something that has caught the attention of fans who see this dynamic in a different light. One moment in the books that many fans point to as a possible clue to this hidden affection comes in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when Hagrid is invited to Madame Maxime's carriage for the Yule Ball. His awkwardness and outright anxiety in this scene are telling. As a large, boisterous man, Hagrid is typically portrayed as confident and unafraid of anything, but when it comes to matters of the heart, he is vulnerable. His difficulty in approaching Madame Maxime about his feelings could indicate a past history of similar emotions left unspoken. After all, how many times had he been in situations where he wanted to say something but simply could not find the words, whether it was with Madame Maxime or someone else? This is where the theory of his unrequited love for McGonagall enters the picture. The dynamic between Hagrid and McGonagall often strikes fans as oddly intimate, even if it's never explicitly romantic. Hagrid's reverence for McGonagall is palpable throughout the books. He is clearly in awe of her intelligence and decisiveness, repeatedly praising her for her wisdom. Hagrid is known for his bluntness, yet he consistently goes out of his way to treat McGonagall with a kind of reverence, even deference. He doesn't show this same behavior toward many others, which leads one to wonder if there was a deeper layer to his admiration. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, when Hagrid first brings Harry to Hogwarts, there's a moment when he talks to Harry about the professors at the school. he tells Harry about McGonagall with particular respect, speaking of her as someone who was capable of great power and wisdom. Hagrid admires her for her dedication to the school and her no-nonsense attitude. This respect is not only admiration for her skills, but also an appreciation for her character. Could it be that this admiration went beyond professional courtesy? Perhaps Hagrid saw in McGonagall not only a colleague, but someone who understood him in ways that others could not. Moreover, Hagrid's personality, particularly his gentle and caring nature, makes it seem plausible that he would develop feelings for someone like McGonagall, who also had a caring heart underneath her tough exterior. She might have appeared stern on the surface, but it was clear that she cared deeply for the students and the people around her, especially in her role as head of Gryffindor House. This shared devotion to the students of Hogwarts, coupled with their mutual respect for each other's abilities, could have been fertile ground for something deeper to blossom. Yet it's not only Hagrid's respect for McGonagall that feeds this theory, it's also his apparent discomfort with romantic relationships in general. Hagrid's shy and awkward nature when it comes to matters of love suggests a past filled with unrealized emotions. In Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, when he is faced with the prospect of inviting Madame Maxime to the Yule Ball, his self-consciousness seems to mirror what might have been a similar reaction had he ever tried to approach McGonagall with his feelings. The scene feels like a mirror reflecting not only his feelings for Madame Maxime, but perhaps also unspoken feelings for someone else in his past, someone he never had the courage to address his emotions toward. Fans who support the idea of Hagrid's unspoken love for McGonagall often point to this behavior as a sign that Hagrid was never fully able to confront his feelings for her. He was the kind of person who would do anything for his friends, but when it came to matters of the heart, he was often unsure and hesitant. And McGonagall, while never unkind, was also a figure who kept her emotions closely guarded, which might have made Hagrid feel as though his feelings were better left unspoken. There are also moments in the series when Hagrid's protectiveness toward McGonagall seems to go beyond that of a colleague or friend. In Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when the battle against the Death Eaters begins, Hagrid's concern for McGonagall's safety is clear. While he cares for all his colleagues, his protectiveness toward her feels more personal. It's in these moments that the theory of Hagrid's deeper affection for McGonagall feels the most plausible. His strong emotional response to her safety, the way he watches out for her, speaks of a connection that is more than just friendship. Additionally, their moments of quiet companionship throughout the series further support this theory. In Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, during the battle, in the Department of Mysteries, Hagrid and McGonagall fight side by side. While they're both fierce in their actions, there's a quiet understanding between them. They trust each other, support each other, and move through the chaos with a certain ease that indicates a shared bond, one built over years of friendship, mutual respect, and perhaps unspoken feelings. The theory is also supported by the idea that Hagrid, despite his outward boisterousness, was someone who struggled with loneliness. His life, marked by the trauma of being unfairly expelled from Hogwarts and the subsequent ostracism he faced as a half-giant, would have shaped his emotional world. His heart was clearly capable of love, yet it was also marred by years of rejection. McGonagall, too, had faced her own struggles, particularly in her early life. Could these shared experiences of hardship and solitude have drawn them together in a way that no one else saw? Hagrid's life, marked by his gentle, caring nature, was one of profound emotional depth. He was a man who loved deeply but struggled to express those emotions. He adored animals, students, and his friends, but it's clear that his heart was also open to something more. His affection for McGonagall, though never acknowledged in the text, could easily have been one of the great unspoken loves of his life, an affection that was kept hidden, not because it wasn't real, but because it was something Hagrid could never bring himself to share. While this theory is by no means a confirmed part of J.K. Rowling's canon, it adds a layer of richness to both characters. It paints a picture of Hagrid not only as the lovable giant with a heart of gold, but also as someone who harbored deep, untold emotions. It portrays McGonagall as more than just the stern head of Gryffindor. She becomes a symbol of unattainable love, the object of Hagrid's deepest affections, the one person he admired beyond all others. Their relationship, though never explicitly romantic, becomes one of those tragic, bitter-sweet friendships that can't help but evoke feelings of what might have been. Number 22, Hagrid is the last of a magical line lost after the war. In the world of Harry Potter, a fascinating theory has emerged that ties the enigmatic character of Hagrid to an ancient and mysterious magical family, one that vanished after the First War with Voldemort. The theory suggests that Hagrid is the last known heir of this forgotten lineage, and his life, though filled with eccentricities and tragic circumstances, may hold the key to unraveling the story of a long-lost magical family. This family, it is believed, was deeply connected to magical creatures, a tradition that Hagrid carries forward in his own way. But what is even more intriguing is the idea that the destruction of his family during the war and his subsequent protection by Albus Dumbledore is not just an act of kindness, but a sense of duty to a great legacy that has been wiped from the annals of history. Hagrid, with his rough-hewn appearance, towering figure, and gentle nature, has always seemed a bit out of place in the world of wizardry. His immense love for magical creatures ranging from dragons to hippogriffs often makes him an oddity in the world of wizards who prefer the more traditional forms of magic. But what if his deep connection to these creatures is not just a quirky passion, but the manifestation of a family legacy, one that was deeply involved in the care, study, and protection of magical beings? Perhaps this affinity for creatures is an inherited trait passed down from a family that once thrived in a time before the magical world was torn apart by Voldemort's rise to power. The theory suggests that Hagrid's family belonged to one of the old, noble wizarding houses, a family whose history was intertwined with magical creatures. This family, however, was not like the others. They did not focus on traditional wizarding subjects such as potion-making or transfiguration. Instead, they dedicated themselves to the study and protection of magical creatures. They were the caretakers of the magical world's wildest and most dangerous beings, their knowledge of these creatures being unrivaled. Their expertise was revered and respected by many, but their unconventional ways also made them targets during times of turmoil. When Voldemort rose to power, their family became a casualty of the war, their members either killed or erased from history altogether. Hagrid, it seems, is the last surviving member of this lost house. The fact that he is half-giant may be a clue to his heritage. The giants were once a prominent part of the magical world, but over the centuries they were hunted and exterminated, leaving few survivors. If Hagrid's family had some connection to the giants, perhaps through an ancestor who had intermingled with them, this would explain Hagrid's unique status as a half-giant. His size and strength, combined with his deep affinity for magical creatures, might be the result of this ancient bloodline. In a world where most magical families kept their bloodlines pure, Hagrid's mixed heritage set him apart, making him an outsider in both the wizarding and giant communities. But why was Hagrid, the last of his family, left to live in relative obscurity? The theory posits that Albus Dumbledore, who was known for his sense of duty to protect those who had been wronged or oppressed, took it upon himself to safeguard Hagrid. Dumbledore, a man of immense wisdom and far-reaching influence, recognized something special in Hagrid. Perhaps he saw the last remnants of a once great family, a lineage that deserved protection not only for the magic it held, but for the legacy it represented. Dumbledore, in his usual way, made it his personal mission to shield Hagrid from the prejudices and dangers of the magical world. He gave him a position at Hogwarts not just as a gamekeeper, but as a figure who would continue the work of his ancestors, protecting magical creatures and preserving their knowledge. One of the most telling aspects of this theory is Hagrid's incomplete education. Unlike other Hogwarts staff members, Hagrid never received a full wizarding education. He was expelled from Hogwarts during his third year for a crime he did not commit, the release of the dangerous acromantula named Aragog. This event is widely believed to have been the result of a plot to frame Hagrid, a plot that could have been orchestrated by those who sought to destroy his family. His expulsion left him in a state of limbo, not fully accepted by the wizarding world, but never truly exiled either. His lack of formal education could be seen as a deliberate effort to keep him in the dark about his true heritage, preventing him from uncovering the secrets of his family's past. Dumbledore, who knew the truth about Hagrid's family and their connection to magical creatures, took it upon himself to provide Hagrid with the love and guidance he needed. Hagrid's life at Hogwarts was, in many ways, a way for Dumbledore to keep him safe. Hagrid's deep affection for magical creatures, his unwavering loyalty to Dumbledore, and his natural kindness were all qualities that made him unique in the wizarding world. But it was also his family's legacy that made him important, not just to the magical community, but to the history of magic itself. Dumbledore understood the significance of this legacy, which is why he kept Hagrid close, always ensuring that the young half-giant would be protected from those who might seek to harm him or use him for their own purposes. Hagrid's passion for magical creatures, particularly those that others feared or misunderstood, is another clue that supports the theory. His bond with dragons, for instance, is not merely the product of a whimsical nature, but the fulfillment of a duty passed down through generations. In the book Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Hagrid is introduced as the keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, but his true passion lies in his ability to understand and care for magical creatures. He takes Harry and his friends on a journey to understand these creatures, teaching them that they are not all dangerous or monstrous. This love and respect for creatures, even those who pose a threat, is reminiscent of his family's ancient work, and it is Hagrid's inheritance. The loss of Hagrid's family is also reflected in his own struggles with identity. Hagrid, throughout the series, is portrayed as a man searching for a sense of belonging. He is caught between the wizarding world and the giant world, never fully accepted by either. His affection for magical creatures, however, is the one thing that ties him to a deeper legacy, one that he may not fully understand, but that he instinctively protects and nurtures. His deep care for creatures like Buckbeak and Aragog, whom others fear and see as dangerous, shows Hagrid's commitment to a forgotten family tradition that sought to protect and understand the magical creatures of the world. The fact that Hagrid never marries or has children of his own is also significant in the context of this theory. It is as if the last of his family's bloodline was destined to remain alone, its legacy living on through his work with magical creatures rather than through family. This loneliness is a recurring theme throughout Hagrid's life. He has many friends and allies, but none who truly understand the depth of his heritage. His relationship with Dumbledore is perhaps the closest thing he has to a family, and it is Dumbledore who ensures that Hagrid's legacy lives on in a way that is not tainted by the tragic fate of his ancestors. Ultimately, the theory that Hagrid is the last of a forgotten magical family whose roots stretch deep into the care and protection of magical creatures adds a layer of depth to his character that is often overlooked. Hagrid is not just the friendly, bumbling giant of Hogwarts. He is the last representative of a lost tradition, one that was wiped out during the First War with Voldemort. Dumbledore's protection of Hagrid, his acceptance of the half-giant, and his recognition of Hagrid's worth go far beyond kindness. They are an acknowledgement of the duty Dumbledore felt to preserve a legacy that had been lost to time and tragedy. And in Hagrid, that legacy lives on, not in the form of traditional wizardry or wealth, but in the love and care he shows for the magical creatures of the world. Number 23, Hagrid, secretly cared for orphans after the war. Hagrid was known for his enormous heart, always brimming with kindness, even for those others might consider too dangerous or too unusual. This made him a peculiar figure, one who was easily misunderstood. After the fall of Voldemort, the magical world was left shattered, much like the homes of its inhabitants. Families were torn apart, parents lost, and children were left abandoned, their futures uncertain. The wizarding world had been decimated by years of violence and fear. While the battle against Voldemort may have officially ended, the emotional and societal aftermath lingered. It was in this broken world that one fan theory emerges, a theory that suggests Hagrid, with his deeply caring nature, took it upon himself to help the most vulnerable, the orphaned children. In the immediate aftermath of Voldemort's first downfall, there was a noticeable chaos in the wizarding world. Families were shattered, and many children found themselves without parents or guardians. Institutions like Hogwarts and the Ministry of Magic had their hands full, attempting to restore order and care for the orphans left in the wake of the war. However, in the eyes of many, they were not enough. The wizarding world's infrastructure was slow to rebuild, and for some of the most vulnerable, waiting on the Ministry's decision meant an uncertain future. Hagrid, always a person driven by empathy, would not have been one to stand idly by. With a deep love for magical creatures and a long-standing desire to care for those in need, his personality seems to align perfectly with the idea that he would take it upon himself to protect and care for orphaned children, just as he did for countless magical creatures in the past. The theory proposes that after the fall of Voldemort, Hagrid did not simply return to his role as keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, but rather took on a secret, unsung responsibility of caring for those most affected by the war, the children. It is entirely possible, according to the theory, that Hagrid, with his vast knowledge of the Forbidden Forest and its many hidden, secluded locations, provided sanctuary to orphans of the war. In the dense and mysterious woods far from the eyes of the Ministry, children who had lost their parents could find a brief respite. Hagrid, with his loving nature, might have provided them not only with physical shelter, but also with a sense of safety. He was the perfect candidate to offer such protection, towering and intimidating, but with a heart so full of compassion that even a dragon could not compare to his tenderness. These children, in this narrative, would not have had to be alone during their darkest hours, for Hagrid would have taken them in, offering them the comfort and warmth they so desperately needed. The Forbidden Forest, often a place of mystery and danger in the Harry Potter books, becomes a place of refuge in this fan theory. Its dark, brooding atmosphere would have made it the perfect hiding place for these vulnerable children, safe from the confusion and chaos of the outside world. Hagrid's hut, situated at the edge of the forest, would have served as the perfect home for these children, even if it was just temporary. Here they could have stayed until a more permanent solution was found for them, perhaps until the Ministry was able to sort out the adoption or fostering processes for magical children. Hagrid's role as a father figure was demonstrated time and time again throughout the Harry Potter series. His protective nature over Harry was undeniable, but it's worth considering that Harry was not the only child Hagrid may have taken under his wing. The possibility that Hagrid cared for other children, even before Harry, paints him not just as a protector of magical creatures, but as a fatherly figure to those in need. After all, he had done it before. From the moment he first met Harry, it was clear that Hagrid viewed him not just as the boy who lived, but as a child to protect. This deep-seated caring could easily have extended to other orphan children who found themselves vulnerable in the aftermath of Voldemort's reign of terror. Think of how Hagrid interacted with Tom Riddle during his time at Hogwarts. Though the young Riddle was not exactly an orphan at the time, Hagrid's interactions with him displayed a level of care that in hindsight seems strangely prescient. Even more telling is how Hagrid, upon finding Harry on his 11th birthday, immediately sought to protect him from the Dursleys. This was not just a matter of duty, but of genuine care. Hagrid was, after all, someone who would not easily forget the pain of a child, especially one who had been wronged. And so it makes sense that after the war, Hagrid would seek out others who had been similarly abandoned, perhaps without a second thought. Furthermore, Hagrid's ability to keep secrets, so vital in his role as a caretaker of magical creatures, would have made him an ideal guardian for these children, providing them with both the protection and discretion they needed. It's not just the physical shelter Hagrid might have offered, but also the emotional comfort. The children, lost in a world that had failed them, would find in Hagrid someone who, although unusual, was immensely trustworthy and kind. If we think back to Hagrid's deep attachment to the creatures he raised and loved, it's not far-fetched to imagine him forming a similar attachment to the orphaned children who may have lived with him after the war. Hagrid's connection to his creatures was a direct reflection of his deep empathy. He could not stand to see a living being, magical or not, suffer. Whether it was a hippogriff or a three-headed dog, Hagrid would go to great lengths to ensure that these creatures were treated with care, respect, and love. It's only natural to think that children, especially those who were vulnerable and alone, would fall under his protective gaze. The theory goes further to suggest that the children Hagrid took in were not just any orphans. These were children whose lives had been irrevocably changed by the war. Many of them might have had family members killed by Death Eaters, or perhaps parents who had died fighting in the final battle. Some may have lost both parents, others might have been shunned by relatives too afraid to take them in due to their association with the war. For these children, the world was unfamiliar and their future seemed uncertain. But in Hagrid they would have found a steady hand, a protector who would never let them feel alone. Hagrid's deep connection to Harry also reinforces the theory that he would have cared for other orphan children. When Hagrid first met Harry, he immediately connected with the boy on a deeply personal level, recognizing that Harry needed someone to look out for him. Hagrid was not just Harry's friend, but his father figure, a role he had seemingly taken on instinctively. He was Harry's protector in every sense of the word, and for Harry, Hagrid was the father figure he had never had. This caring, nurturing side of Hagrid, which emerged during his time with Harry, likely extended to other children in need as well. The theory also draws attention to the fact that after the war, the wizarding world was deeply broken. The Ministry of Magic was slow to respond to the needs of its citizens, particularly the children. Many of these orphans would have been left to fend for themselves, waiting for the ministry to figure out what to do with them. But Hagrid, in his kindness and selflessness, wouldn't have left them to wait. He would have taken action, offering them a home, food, and above all, a sense of security. His actions, though never formally acknowledged, would have been a quiet but significant act of defiance against the fear and uncertainty of the post-war world. Hagrid, the half-giant with a heart of gold, became a quiet hero for the forgotten children of the war. His care for them would not have been for the glory or the recognition, but simply because it was the right thing to do. He knew what it was like to be misunderstood and isolated, and he would not have stood by while others suffered. For Hagrid, this was not just an act of kindness, but a true calling to help those in need. His legacy would not simply be one of saving Harry Potter, but of saving many other children who, in the wake of the war, needed someone to show them that there was still good in the world. Number 24. Hagrid knew the prophecy before Harry did. In the world of Harry Potter, few characters are as beloved and enigmatic as Rubeus Hagrid. A half-giant, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, and one of Harry's most steadfast allies, Hagrid often stands as the bridge between the magical and the mundane. However, there's a compelling fan theory that suggests Hagrid knew much more than he let on, particularly regarding the fateful prophecies surrounding Harry and Lord Voldemort. According to this theory, Hagrid might have known about the prophecy long before Harry ever set foot at Hogwarts. The prophecy itself, kept hidden in the Department of Mysteries, was a secret known only to a few. Its content predicted that Harry Potter was the one who would ultimately defeat Voldemort, a fact that set the stage for the Dark Lord's obsession with the boy from the moment he was born. However, what many fans overlook is the possibility that Hagrid, due to his close relationship with Albus Dumbledore, had knowledge of the prophecy long before the events of the books unfolded. This theory presents a fresh lens through which to examine Hagrid's behavior, one that aligns with his odd reactions to certain events and his occasional mysterious demeanor throughout the series. For instance, in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Hagrid's actions seem unusually calm and collected in the face of potential threats surrounding Harry. When Harry first learns that he is a wizard, it is Hagrid who takes him shopping in Diagon Alley and later escorts him to Hogwarts. As a protector and guide, Hagrid becomes Harry's first friend in the magical world. However, his treatment of Harry sometimes feels as though there's more at play than simple kindness. Hagrid has been through wars and witnessed death firsthand, yet he remains unwaveringly loyal to Harry, even when the boy is in direct danger. Hagrid's sense of knowing, of being prepared, suggests an understanding that goes beyond simple trust in Dumbledore's plans. In the Chamber of Secrets, when Harry faces danger in the form of the basilisk, Hagrid's involvement is again subtle but significant. As the Keeper of Keys, he has an uncanny ability to anticipate danger and offer guidance. He doesn't overtly reveal his knowledge, but there is a calm acceptance of the chaos around Harry. Perhaps it is because Hagrid knows that all of this, the danger, the events, the threats, is leading toward a singular conclusion, the final battle between Harry and Voldemort. What might seem like simple concern for Harry's well-being could in this light be a deeper understanding of the prophecy's inevitable outcome. Hagrid's most telling behavior comes when we examine his role in the return of Voldemort in The Goblet of Fire. When Harry is unexpectedly entered into the Triwizard Tournament, it's Hagrid who remains by Harry's side through much of the ordeal. Despite the evident danger, he never doubts Harry's ability to handle the trials, which makes us wonder if Hagrid's unshakable confidence is rooted in his knowledge of what is to come. Hagrid's protective nature could be seen as an attempt to safeguard Harry until the final confrontation, knowing full well that Harry's survival is key to fulfilling the prophecy. Perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of this theory is Hagrid's silence. He never directly reveals his knowledge of the prophecy, even when others, like Severus Snape and the Order of the Phoenix, are more forthright in their involvement with Harry's destiny. Hagrid, however, seems to understand the value of silence. As Dumbledore's trusted confidant, he is likely aware that the prophecy, once revealed, could be twisted and exploited. Hagrid's silence is not ignorance, but rather a deliberate act of loyalty to the greater good. Hagrid's connection to Dumbledore, who is the only other character to have full knowledge of the prophecy's contents, further strengthens this theory. Dumbledore is known for his strategic mind and his ability to plan events years in advance. Hagrid's role as a trusted ally is critical in this strategy. If Hagrid knew the prophecy, it would make sense that he kept quiet, not because he was asked to, but because he knew it was the only way to protect Harry and ensure the prophecy's fulfillment. This knowledge would have been a heavy burden, one that required a level of understanding of fate and destiny far beyond what most characters in the series comprehend. One of the clearest examples of Hagrid's deep understanding of fate can be seen in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, when he takes Harry to meet Tom Riddle's orphanage. The visit is poignant, as Harry learns more about Voldemort's past. What's striking here is how Hagrid seems unperturbed by the dark history surrounding them. It's as though he's already come to terms with the notion that everything, including Voldemort's origins, is all part of a greater, inevitable plan. Hagrid may have known that Voldemort's rise and eventual downfall were as predestined as Harry's victory. In this sense, Hagrid's calmness isn't just a product of his nature, but a reflection of a deeper knowledge of the prophecy's significance. Another pivotal moment in the series is Hagrid's reaction to the events surrounding the Battle of Hogwarts. As Harry prepares for the final confrontation, Hagrid's demeanor is one of quiet resolve. He is not surprised by the danger, nor is he panicked. Instead, he remains steady, knowing that Harry's path has led to this moment. His ability to remain composed, even in the face of such great peril, could be interpreted as the actions of someone who understands the larger cosmic forces at play. While Harry is filled with doubts and fears, Hagrid's presence is a steady reminder that all of this, no matter how difficult or dangerous, is part of the journey. Hagrid's reaction to Harry's eventual self-sacrifice in the Deathly Hallows also hints at his knowledge of the prophecy. When Harry willingly faces death at the hands of Voldemort, Hagrid's reaction is one of sorrow, but also acceptance. It is as if he understands that this moment is not just a personal sacrifice, but a necessary step in the fulfillment of the prophecy. His sorrow is not for the lost potential of Harry, but for the weight of the task Harry has taken on, a task that only Harry could bear. This moment, charged with deep emotion, mirrors the resignation and understanding that Hagrid has known for so long. Harry's fate is sealed. The fan theory also suggests that Hagrid's interactions with others in the Order of the Phoenix, particularly with Severus Snape, may have been influenced by his knowledge of the prophecy. Hagrid, for all his warmth and loyalty, has a pragmatic side, one that makes him aware of the delicate balance of power and information. His interactions with Snape, though tense at times, could have been driven by the recognition that some secrets must remain hidden. Hagrid knew that the prophecy was not just about Voldemort's downfall, but about the way it would shape the lives of those involved in the fight. Ultimately, the fan theory that Hagrid knew the prophecy before Harry creates a new layer of understanding around his character. It suggests that Hagrid's behavior, often seen as simply protective and loyal, was actually a manifestation of a much deeper understanding of fate and destiny. He wasn't just protecting Harry for the sake of his own attachment, but because he knew Harry's role in the larger struggle. Hagrid, in his quiet wisdom, understood that the path to victory was inevitable, but not without great sacrifice. His actions, then, were not merely those of a loyal friend, but of someone who had been entrusted with a knowledge that could not be easily shared, and a burden that could never be lifted. This theory adds another dimension to Hagrid's role in the story, casting him not just as a protector but as a quiet witness to a prophecy unfolding. His loyalty to Harry, his willingness to endure hardship and sacrifice, and his acceptance of fate all point to a deeper understanding of the events that would shape the wizarding world forever. Number 25. Hagrid. was once on the brink of joining the dark side. Rubeus Hagrid, the gentle half-giant of Hogwarts, is known to students and readers as a loving protector and loyal friend to Harry Potter. However, behind his warm and welcoming demeanour lies a past marked by pain, isolation, and even moments of temptation. As a key figure in the series, Hagrid's loyalty to the light is unquestioned, but some fans have speculated that there was a time when he nearly crossed over to the darkness. This theory explores the notion that Hagrid, despite his heart of gold, was once on the verge of succumbing to the darkness that surrounded him. Hagrid's childhood, growing up in a home filled with prejudice and fear of his giant heritage, set the stage for a life filled with loneliness and rejection. Born to a giantess mother and a wizard father, Hagrid never truly fit into the world of either giants or wizards. As a young boy, he was ostracized and looked down upon by both magical and non-magical communities. His only solace came in the form of his love for magical creatures, and it was in his connection to them that he first found a sense of belonging. However, his enormous size and strength made him an outcast, especially in the world of wizards, where fear and distrust often clouded rational thinking. At Hogwarts, Hagrid's introduction to the wizarding world was bittersweet. While he was accepted into the school due to his magical abilities, his giant blood made him a target of discrimination. His deep affection for magical creatures was often seen as strange and even dangerous, and his expulsion from Hogwarts in his third year, due to a misunderstanding involving Aragog, marked a pivotal moment in his life. The fact that his dreams were shattered and that he was unjustly blamed for something beyond his control might have left him feeling embittered and alienated from the magical world he had longed to be a part of. This isolation, combined with his inherent vulnerability, set the stage for a crucial turning point. It is here, in the solitude of his exile, that the theory begins to take shape. Hagrid, a man whose heart was scarred by rejection, could easily have fallen prey to the darkness that loomed around him. After all, the wizarding world had wronged him. He could have chosen to withdraw further into bitterness, possibly even to seek revenge against those who had wronged him. The allure of power and the opportunity to finally be respected and feared by others could have tempted someone so deeply wounded. In this light, the possibility of Hagrid being approached by Lord Voldemort seems entirely plausible. Voldemort, always on the lookout for potential allies, was known to exploit weaknesses and prey on those who felt like they had nothing left to lose. Hagrid, with his deep feelings of abandonment and his years of isolation, was a perfect target for the Dark Lord's manipulations. Voldemort could have easily offered Hagrid a sense of belonging, a place in his regime where the giant would be seen as strong and valuable, not as an outcast. This temptation would have been powerful. After all, Voldemort promised power, revenge, and the chance to change the way the wizarding world viewed him. Hagrid, vulnerable and desperate for acceptance, might have found it difficult to resist. The theory suggests that Hagrid, at a crossroads in his life, may have stood face to face with Voldemort at some point, tempted by the dark wizard's promises. However, what sets Hagrid apart from so many others who fell under Voldemort's spell is his deep-rooted sense of goodness. Even though the darkness seemed to offer him the one thing he had longed for, respect and acceptance, Hagrid could not abandon his core values, his love for magical creatures, his loyalty to those he cared about, and his unwavering belief in the power of kindness and forgiveness kept him from straying too far down the dark path. The defining moment in this narrative comes in the form of Albus Dumbledore. Dumbledore, ever the guiding light in Harry's life, was the one person who believed in Hagrid when others rejected him. His faith in Hagrid was not just a show of kindness, but a recognition of the deep well of goodness that lay within the half-giant. When Dumbledore gave Hagrid a second chance, offering him the position of Keeper of Keys and Grounds at Hogwarts, he was not just providing a job, but a lifeline, a chance for Hagrid to rebuild his life and stay true to the light. It is this unwavering belief that became Hagrid's anchor, preventing him from succumbing to the darker inclinations that might have otherwise overtaken him. Hagrid's choice to align with Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix stands as a testament to his character. In a world filled with shadows and temptations, Hagrid could have easily chosen to embrace the dark side. Yet time and time again, he chose to fight for the light. His deep friendship with Harry Potter and his love for the students at Hogwarts demonstrate the strength of his heart. Hagrid's decision to stand with the Order was not an easy one. It was a choice made in the face of tremendous personal struggle and emotional pain. One of the most poignant examples of Hagrid's internal struggle is revealed during the Triwizard Tournament. Hagrid, deeply affected by his own troubled past, wishes to see Harry succeed, but he also wishes to protect him from the dangers that lie ahead. It is in these moments that Hagrid's protective nature shines through. Despite the personal cost of standing against dark forces, Hagrid continually chooses to fight for what is good, not because it is easy, but because it is right. This choice is emblematic of his character throughout the series. Moreover, Hagrid's role in Harry's life is a constant reminder of the power of compassion and forgiveness. Even when faced with moments of profound grief and betrayal, Hagrid never turns his back on those he loves. His loyalty to Harry, Ron, Hermione, and the entire student body at Hogwarts speaks volumes about his character. Hagrid's choice to be the protector of Hogwarts, despite the deep scars left by his past, reveals the depth of his inner strength. The decision to resist the darkness also reflects the importance of family and friendship in Hagrid's life. Throughout the series, he is surrounded by people who care for him: Harry, Hermione, Ron, and the various magical creatures he has befriended. These relationships give Hagrid the strength to continue on the path of goodness, even when the darkness calls to him. It is not simply the rejection of Voldemort's promises that defines Hagrid's character, but his belief in the power of human connection and the bonds of trust that he has formed with others. The idea that Hagrid was once at risk of turning to the dark side adds another layer of complexity to his character. His journey from a misunderstood outcast to a beloved hero mirrors the larger theme of redemption that runs throughout the Harry Potter series. Hagrid's struggle between light and dark highlights the very essence of what it means to choose one's path. While others, like Draco Malfoy or Severus Snape, wavered between the two worlds, Hagrid's choice was more definitive. He chose to live by a moral compass that was not shaped by fear, but by the genuine desire to do good in a world fraught with injustice. The true heroism of Hagrid lies not in his innate strength or his immense size, but in his ability to rise above the darkness that once sought to claim him. In the end, Hagrid's decision to align with Dumbledore and the forces of good speaks to the triumph of the human spirit. His story is one of perseverance, of choosing love over hate, light over darkness, and friendship over isolation. Hagrid's path may have been fraught with challenges and temptations, but his unwavering commitment to doing what is right makes him one of the most heroic characters in the entire series. In choosing the light, Hagrid proved that even the most broken and misunderstood individuals can find their way to redemption. Number 26, Hagrid might have been a druid. In the magical world of Harry Potter, Rubeus Hagrid is often seen as a towering, lovable half-giant, known for his deep bond with magical creatures and his unorthodox approach to magic. But there's a fan theory that delves deeper into Hagrid's connection to the natural world, suggesting that he might be a descendant of an ancient order of wizards known as druids. This theory, though not officially confirmed by J.K. Rowling, has captured the imaginations of many fans, and there's something undeniably compelling about the idea of Hagrid being a druid, a magician whose powers are rooted not in spells and wands, but in the very essence of the natural world. Druids were believed to be magicians who worked closely with nature, communing with the elements, the trees, and the creatures that roamed the earth. They had a profound understanding of the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. Hagrid's relationship with the magical creatures he cares for, his almost spiritual connection with the hippogriffs, his undeniable affection for the blast-ended Scroots, and his unflinching loyalty to Buckbeak echoes this kind of ancient, elemental magic. The Druids were often thought to have used magic that did not require the formal use of wands or incantations, relying instead on their deep connection to the world around them. One of the most striking aspects of Hagrid's magical abilities is his preference for using physical means to communicate with magical creatures rather than using spells. He doesn't often rely on the classic wand-waving that most witches and wizards use to perform magic. Instead, his magic seems to come from his connection to the creatures themselves. When Hagrid first introduces Harry to the magical creatures of the wizarding world, he doesn't wave a wand and cast a spell to make them appear or behave in certain ways. Instead, he uses his own voice, his gestures, and sometimes even his body language to communicate with them. This method of communication, of coaxing, reassuring, and calming, hints at an ancient, intuitive form of magic, one that might be passed down through generations of druids rather than learned in the classroom at Hogwarts. Hagrid's affinity with the forest is another key aspect of this theory. He has an almost mystical connection to the Forbidden Forest, a place where few other witches or wizards venture and where he seems most at home. He's not merely a caretaker of magical creatures there, he is part of it. His first introduction to Harry Potter, when he takes Harry to the Forbidden Forest to search for the injured unicorn, shows how seamlessly he blends into the wilderness. He's attuned to its rhythms and secrets, understanding its dangers and wonders in ways that others, even experienced wizards, do not. Druids were often seen as the guardians of the sacred groves, protectors of nature's secrets, and keepers of ancient wisdom. Hagrid's knowledge of the forest's inhabitants and his respect for the natural world fits perfectly into this mold. He is a protector of the creatures that live there, whether they are magical or mundane. His relationship with Buckbeak, for example, is a perfect example of this bond. He doesn't simply see the hippogriff as a creature to be tamed or trained, but as a being to be respected with its own dignity and autonomy. This respect for creatures and his ability to communicate with them in ways others cannot is a hallmark of druidic magic, where the practitioner's power is drawn from a deep understanding of the natural world rather than external forces. What's even more intriguing is Hagrid's unique relationship with the weather. He has a curious reaction to changes in the wind and seems to have a kind of weather-related magic that borders on the supernatural. When Harry and his friends encounter Hagrid at different points in the series, there's often a notable shift in the atmosphere around him. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Hagrid and Harry are out in the grounds near the care of magical creatures' lesson, a strong wind rises and Hagrid reacts almost instinctively, as though he's in tune with the elements. In another instance, when he's fighting to protect Buckbeak, the storm seems to reflect his turmoil and powerlessness. This connection to the elements, the wind, the rain, the thunder, mirrors the druid's deep connection to natural forces, where the weather itself could be seen as an extension of one's will or magic. Perhaps one of the most telling signs of Hagrid's druidic potential lies in his preference for using nature-based magic rather than relying on the academic, wand-based spells learned at Hogwarts. Throughout the series, Hagrid is often portrayed as someone who doesn't fit neatly into the structured world of magical education. His magical abilities are not honed through formal studies in potions, charms, or transfiguration. Instead, they emerge from his connection to the world around him. In Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, for example, when Hagrid takes Harry to Diagon Alley for the first time, he doesn't rely on any spells to get things done. He simply uses his knowledge of the world and his intuitive understanding of creatures and nature to guide them. This lack of reliance on formal magic is a defining trait of the Druidic tradition. Druids were said to possess knowledge passed down through generations, not through textbooks or formal training, but through their connection to the earth and the world around them. Their magic was a way of life, not something that could be learned through rote memorization of incantations or complex spells. Hagrid's approach to magic is similarly instinctive, as if it were a deeply ingrained part of his being rather than something he learned through textbooks or magical schooling. Furthermore, Hagrid's deep reverence for life, both magical and non-magical, mirrors the Druid's belief in the sanctity of all living things. He's not just concerned with the magical creatures he cares for, he also has a profound respect for the natural world in its entirety. His ability to look beyond the surface and see the inherent worth in all things, whether it's a dragon, a giant, or a seemingly ordinary creature like a dog, speaks to a Druid's connection to all life, living in harmony with the world around them. The Druidic tradition also had a strong element of prophecy and foretelling, with Druids believed to have the ability to read the signs of nature and predict the future. While Hagrid isn't a seer in the traditional sense, his intuitive understanding of events often seems to border on prophetic. When he warns Harry and his friends about the dangers they might face in the Forbidden Forest, or when he tries to protect Buckbeak from execution, his actions seem driven by a deep understanding of fate, much like a Druid might feel a responsibility to preserve the natural order and prevent harm from befalling the world around them. The fact that Hagrid is so deeply connected to nature, creatures, and the elements makes the theory of him being a Druid especially appealing. He may not fit the traditional image of a wizard with a wand casting spells in the conventional way, but his magical abilities are just as powerful, if not more so. His magic, it seems, comes from within, the essence of the natural world itself, and that connection might be the true source of his strength. He may be a half-giant, but his soul is profoundly tied to the earth, the creatures, and the ancient magic that courses through the veins of the world itself. Whether he's a Druid by blood or by nature, Hagrid is a living testament to the power of the earth and the magic that flows through it. Number 27, Hagrid died in an alternate ending. The idea that Hagrid, the beloved giant of the Harry Potter series, may have died in an alternative version of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is a fan theory that has captured the imagination of many. The theory posits that in an earlier draft of the final book, J.K. Rowling intended to kill off Hagrid during the Battle of Hogwarts, a decision that was ultimately scrapped, yet left traces of its emotional weight in the final version of the story. This theory takes on a certain tragic resonance when considering the scenes in Deathly Hallows that involve Hagrid, particularly the moment when he carries the seemingly lifeless Harry Potter across the grounds of Hogwarts. The theory centers around the highly emotional scene where Hagrid is seen carrying Harry, presumed dead after Voldemort's victory. For many readers, this moment is not just a display of Hagrid's immense strength, but also one of deep sorrow and farewell. Fans argue that Rowling originally wrote this scene as a final goodbye between Harry and Hagrid, where both characters were to meet their end. The idea was that Hagrid would die in the battle, along with Harry, and their fates would be intertwined. This alternate ending would have served as a powerful emotional punch, signifying the ultimate sacrifice of those who fought against the darkness. In the final version of the book, Hagrid does not die, but the scene where he carries Harry still carries an undeniable weight. Hagrid's grief is palpable, and his journey with Harry, filled with loss and love, adds layers of meaning to the scene. Fans speculate that the raw emotion displayed in that moment is residual from an earlier draft where it was not just Harry, but also Hagrid who was facing death. This emotional charge is heightened by the fact that Hagrid, the protector and guide for Harry, has been a constant in Harry's life, yet is ultimately left to bear witness to his apparent death. One of the most poignant elements of this theory is how it connects to the broader themes of sacrifice and death in the series. From the beginning, Harry Potter is steeped in the language of sacrifice, with the most significant example being Harry's own willingness to lay down his life for others. But Hagrid's potential death would have been another form of sacrifice. A beloved figure, larger than life in both stature and heart, laying down his life in the battle against evil would have been the ultimate act of devotion to his young charge. The idea that Rowling considered this idea but later abandoned it adds a sense of loss and longing to the narrative. Fans point to Hagrid's own sense of destiny, something that was subtly explored throughout the series. Hagrid's life has been marked by moments of isolation and pain, and it is this sense of loneliness that many believe would have led him to a tragic death. From his mistreatment as a half-giant to the moments where he expresses deep affection for Harry, Hagrid's life has been one of both tenderness and hardship. His connection to Harry is central to his character, and the idea that he would be willing to sacrifice his life for Harry's safety fits with the character's arc. Hagrid has always acted as Harry's protector, providing him with a sense of belonging in a world that had largely rejected him. For Hagrid to give his life in the final battle would have been the culmination of his role in Harry's journey. One of the strongest pieces of evidence cited by fans who subscribe to this theory is the emotional weight of the scene where Hagrid carries Harry's body after the Battle of Hogwarts. Hagrid's distress, his sorrowful determination, and his overwhelming grief all point to a sense of finality. The scene is devoid of the triumphant tone that other moments in the book convey, and instead it is steeped in mourning and loss. Fans argue that the gravity of this scene indicates a version of events where both Hagrid and Harry were meant to die, not just Harry alone. This sense of shared fate, of mutual sacrifice, resonates deeply with the overall themes of the series, where love and selflessness are central motifs. Another clue that some fans point to is the way Hagrid's role in the story is treated in the final book. In earlier books, Hagrid plays a more active role in Harry's life, constantly providing him with guidance and assistance. By the time Deathly Hallows rolls around, Hagrid's role has become somewhat diminished, and he takes on a more protective stance, serving as a guardian rather than an active participant in the action. This shift in Hagrid's character could be seen as preparing the reader for his eventual death in an earlier version of the plot. His role as a guide and protector might have been designed to create the illusion that he was ready to make the ultimate sacrifice for Harry. In hindsight, it's possible to see this as a subtle foreshadowing of the emotional impact that would have followed his death. Moreover, Hagrid's moment of carrying Harry could be viewed through the lens of the hero's journey, a narrative structure that is common in many epic stories. In this framework, the protagonist often faces death, either literally or figuratively, before being reborn. In a way, Hagrid's actions in the scene symbolize the emotional rebirth of both characters. The journey of carrying Harry's body is symbolic of Hagrid's emotional journey, a powerful man humbled by the love he has for his young friend, willing to carry that love to the very end. His gesture is not just about physical strength, but emotional strength, a strength that is tested when faced with the loss of the person he has protected for so long. Another layer to this theory is the idea that Hagrid's potential death was meant to serve as a counterpoint to Harry's own journey. Throughout the series, Harry has been defined by his ability to survive, to overcome death, and to triumph in the face of insurmountable odds. Hagrid's death, then, would have served as a stark contrast to Harry's resilience. It would have shown that even those who protect and care for Harry are not invincible. Hagrid's death would have been a reminder that in the end, even the most steadfast and loving individuals are vulnerable to the ravages of war and evil. The death of such a noble character would have served as a painful reminder that victory comes at a great cost. The timing of Hagrid's potential death also fits into the broader structure of the series. The final book is defined by loss, sacrifice, and the ultimate battle between good and evil. Characters like Fred Weasley, Remus Lupin, and Nymphadora Tonks meet their end in the book, and Hagrid's death would have added to this list of sacrifices. The theory suggests that Rowling was initially planning to kill off Hagrid to reinforce the sense that no character, no matter how beloved, is immune to the cost of the battle against Voldemort. This would have deepened the sense of tragedy in the final book and made the ultimate victory even more bittersweet. Yet despite the weight of this theory, Hagrid survives. His final role in the book is one of resilience, and his survival serves as a testament to his enduring love for Harry. While Hagrid's death may have been an idea considered in the early drafts, his survival ultimately allows for a different kind of emotional resolution. Hagrid remains one of the few characters who emerges from the chaos of the battle alive, and his survival, while a relief, also carries its own bitter sweetness. It is a reminder that not all endings are tragic, and that some characters, no matter how deeply they are tied to the themes of loss and sacrifice, can endure. Hagrid's survival in Deathly Hallows also serves as a reminder of the power of love and friendship. Unlike many of the other characters whose deaths carry a sense of finality, Hagrid's presence continues to offer hope. His survival is a reminder that even in a world defined by war and darkness, the bonds of love and loyalty can still withstand the test of time.